I am going to give my state of the program for Baylor softball after the 2026 season concluded. I apologize for looking down because I cannot memorize all this stuff. The last loss of the year was against Texas, the 2 seed in the tournament, 7-0 in the regional final. Yeah, they got there despite losing that first game to Wisconsin in 9 innings, 2-1. They bounced back the next 2 games. They beat Wagner 9-0 in 5 innings, including a no-hitter from Sadie Ross, and that was the 5th one in program history and the 26th one overall in terms of no-hitters. And they got revenge against Wisconsin, 5-2. Then obviously they lost to Texas. And if you would have thought Baylor could have escaped out of the Texas region to go to Super Regionals, you'd be kidding yourself and being very delusional. Texas has a legit chance to possibly repeat as NCAA tournament champs. Granted, I know there are some other teams that could compete for that as well. I have to wait and see if they even get past the super regional matchup against Arizona State. Arizona State's playing really good softball right now. They beat Texas Tech in the Big 12 tournament title game. They even went on the road to beat Texas A&M 2 out of 2 games back to back when they played them. And the last game was not even that close when you look at the scores. So I'm just saying you can't overlook. Thus, Baylor finished 30-28 overall, 10-14 in the Big 12. Obviously, that losses to Houston were not good looks, to say the least. One of those was a 15-inning game, though, and anything could happen when a game goes that long like that. And Cambry Krager did everything she could in that game. She pitched 250 pitches in that game. They just didn't do enough offense. And obviously the run rule, yeah, that was a bad loss and a bad look as well. They did start the conference pretty good, 5-1. I mean, they swept Iowa State. And then they went on the road to UCF. And UCF is headed to the Super Regionals now. And they beat them 2 out of 3. And they did that after losing game number 1. Yeah, from there, they're kind of struggling in the Big 12 a little bit. I know the UT Arlington loss was not exactly a good loss either. And in hindsight, when you look at it, and I know the Utah loss at home looked bad, but Utah is a good team. They just didn't make the NCAAs because their RPI was not high enough. And it's a Utah team, by the way, that beat Texas Tech this year. Granted, it was on the road for Tech. Still, not many teams beat Texas Tech in general in softball this year. Not a ton. And I know there's obviously that game against Oklahoma State, the first one. Baylor had a lead. They couldn't protect it. Then obviously they got run ruled the following game. Then the game after, there was just one bad inning that cost them. Because after that, they were right in the game. They just gave it too many runs in that one inning. And try to come back, yeah. And obviously there's only like one other loss that might be questionable in hindsight was San Diego State. But San Diego State was a receiving votes team at the time. But then they beat them the next meeting, though. So you guys get the point. And Baylor did finish 8th in the Big 12. Yeah, technically Utah was 7th only because of that tie that they had with UCF. Yeah, it was like the time limit for UCF to get back. I mean, UCF to get back, like a time limit for the road team in that one trying to get back so I could drop dead time. Stupid, I know. And that's despite Baylor beating Utah 2 out of 3. That's probably the most questionable losses are definitely in the conference are definitely those two Houston ones, and there's no shot of a doubt. I mean, after all, they were at the bottom of 3-21, and obviously Baylor did not play BYU this year, and same thing goes for Arizona State. They played everybody else though, and it's not like the Big 12 is not that great in softball. Oh no, they actually were good. They had 7 NCAA tournament bids, including Baylor, and 4 of those are headed to super regionals. Obviously, Texas Tech, though they had to do a miraculous comeback against Ole Miss on Saturday. Teams in this century were 0-640 after trailing 8 runs or more. Make that 1-640. Yeah, crazy. And then obviously Texas Tech played Ole Miss again later on, and they run ruled them. There's obviously Arizona State, like I mentioned. They're going to play Texas next in a super regional after beating Texas A&M, and they won. They only played like 3 games, and they won those 3. And then there's obviously Oklahoma State. They protected home field, but they have to go on the road now to Nebraska. Yikes! And that's an old Big 12 foe for them. Then obviously UCF upset Florida State in their regional, and now they have to go on the road to all the way across to UCLA. Yikes! So, and obviously Arizona, they had 2 wins, and they're right there potentially making the supers, but they didn't win the last 2 games against Duke. Tough way to end their year. And obviously Kansas was just a regional team. They lost in the first. They lost to Michigan in a high-scoring game, to say the least. I meant a low-scoring game the first time. It was like 1-0. But then, honestly, Kansas got run ruled by Oklahoma, 9-0 in 5 innings. Then thus they had to play Michigan again after Michigan beat Binghamton 6-0, and it was a high-scoring game between Michigan and Kansas in that one, 12-10, and thus Kansas was eliminated. So you guys get the point. And it was like only the top 8 get in the Big 12 make the Big 12 tournament, by the way, for this year. And I did hear on the John Moore show at one time that they are discussing potentially moving the Big 12 tournament to campus sites. I mean, when you look at the rest of the country, everybody else is doing that. I mean, it would also save money, potentially, but it's just a discussion. It's what he heard when softball was on the road. I mean, going on to a road game or a Big 12 tournament game against Texas Tech, and obviously it depended on matchups. And they finished 8th in the league. Maybe they could have finished better. I mean, beat Houston at least one time. They would have been facing Oklahoma State. I mean, like the 2 seed in the Big 12 tournament instead of the 1 in Texas Tech. And you literally played Texas Tech that weekend. It was a very critical win, to say the least, to make the NCAAs. And you know how many teams beat Texas Tech in Lubbock this year? And I'm saying this year because there's no chance that Texas Tech is going to be at home again, because they're going to have to go on the road to Florida for their super regionals, and we'll have to wait and see if they survive that. You know how many teams beat Texas Tech and Texas Tech this year? 2. Baylor's one of them. Arizona's the other one. Crazy. I know. They honestly had a big win against Texas State at the time. That really helped propel the NCAA tournament resume, and they had to avoid the 500 rule. And they did. And obviously, that Kansas series, they lost 2 out of 3, but those two other games were combined by 2 runs. So really close series right there. And even Baylor's win against Kansas in the first game was a 8-7 game, and yeah, very close. So maybe if they could have taken one Houston game, forget the run rule one, but the 15-inning one, win that one game, and then win one of the Kansas games, you'll definitely be higher and wouldn't have to sweat for the NCAA tournament. And I thought after that Texas State win, Baylor softball needed to win one more game in the last 6 in order to make the NCAAs. No matter what happened in the Big 12 tournament, they obviously not a lot of bid stealers. And I actually asked a person that covers softball collegiately, like from a Softball America, and the name is Brady Vernon, by the way. He basically said all Baylor has to do here is to avoid 0-6 and hope there's not a lot of mid-major bid stealers. Obviously, if Baylor would have beat Oklahoma State in that first game, they would have definitely been in, and then beat Texas Tech for sure the following week. I mean, it was just a crazy game, and I right there on how they won that game. And not a lot of teams have done that this year in Lubbock. And I'm glad that this team got back to the NCAA tournament, unlike a year ago. This team was very young, to say the least. I mean, they had one grad senior, and then technically 3 players were honored on senior day, and those were like Casey West, of course, Brooklyn Carter, and then Bertoven. Though Jensen Vianney is classified as a senior now. I mean, on the roster now, so maybe she's going to be back. I will say, though, Casey West didn't pitch that much. I mean, only had 4 appearances, though she was more at bat as a pitch hitter this year. When you look at it, I mean, she had 31 games played in as a batter. She even started 7 of those. Yeah, so that 2 regular consistent starters. Casey West, pitch hitter type. So, and we'll have to wait and see if Jensen comes back. She started 3 games out of 19 played. I will say, though, injuries did hurt them a little bit. I mean, Carrington Dawson was a leadoff hitter, the best one that played consistently all year. 35 games and 35 starts, 372 batting average. She tore her ACL. That really did hurt because she would have been like top of your lineup at times. And then obviously, I know that Avery Wildell did get hurt. I don't know what exactly it was, but if you go to Jensen Vianney's Instagram, like on the day of the Bruisers, like a post, she has some type of contraption. Like if you want to look at it, like she's literally holding something, and it had something around her wrist. It went all like right behind her shoulder and then across like chest area. That looked like a back injury to me, but I can't tell based on the photo alone. She was the starting catcher. She had some pop on the bat, to say the least. I mean, she had 15 RBI and 254 batting average, 407 slugging percentage. So you get the point there. And there's obviously Cambridge Krager. And I know people might be upset on how they handled her during that Houston game, but it's up to the player if they want to continue pitching. That's what Glenmore asked her if you want to continue, like at times during that 15-inning game, and she said, no, I want to do that. That's what he said on the John Moore show, by the way. Literally, right? Like the following time, like week. So it's not totally on the coaches. It's the players making that decision as well. So you got to keep that in mind. And I know she was dealing with arm soreness at the very end of the season. That's why at times you didn't even see her pitch. Not once. Literally, the last time she appeared in a game for Krieger, was against Oklahoma State in that, like, on April 24th matchup. Yeah, and then prior to that, it was like April 22nd. So you get the point. Arm soreness is real. And you got to keep in mind for Camber Krager. I know it's practice she did most of last year at Arizona State, but consistently playing, that's totally different. I mean, it's in game action. And you got to keep in mind, too, that Payne Tanner was kind of the same, not really arm soreness wise, but prior to this year, she didn't consistently pitch in a real game at Tennessee last year as a true freshman. You got to keep that in mind. So this is probably the most she's pitched since her high school days. And I know there's Sadie Ross in the circle as well, and Lexi Warnke did play at times too, both as a hitter, like a designated player, and a pitcher. So yeah, they don't really lose anybody in the bullpen consistently that played. I know Casey West did appear 4 times, but still, it was only like 2 2/3 innings. And she's mostly used as a pitch hitter at times. So yeah, there's not like a tremendous amount of seniors going to be gone. We never know with the transfer portal, though. We know that. And it did start in this sport technically yesterday, May 17th, and it lasts till June 15th. I really do wish the sport would kind of do like football and basketball. Wait until, at least in terms of basketball, have it at the end of the Women's College World Series here. Do the day a day after. Seriously. And I know technically football does still issues with the teams in the national title game with the transfer portal, but they accommodate for that. So you guys get the point. I really wish that's probably one of the changes I would like to see made down the line for every sport. That way it's not so chaotic, and the coaches could focus on the games and not necessarily on the players entering the portal now. Because those players in the Super Regionals and the Women's College World Series could technically enter the portal. And even in College World Series Championship Series. So, there's also like Faith Piper that's going to be potentially coming back. Potentially. Leah Krantz. Samaya Jones, by the way, even though she's listed as an infielder, she did start in the outfield as well. And there's Gianna Guzman, there's Kagan Marshall. She has some serious pop on the bat. She led the team in home runs with 10 this year. I know there's Olivia Bittner that could be back. So you get the point. It's not like the cupboard is bare. It's just you obviously need to replace a little bit of production from Amber Tovin and Brooklyn Carter, as well as Casey West, because who knows about Jensen Vianney? Who knows about that situation? I definitely know, though, they do have 3 players coming in, signed already, and one of them's a third baseman, Emerson Lechler from Richmond, Texas, from like attended Richmond Foster High School, like club team, impact goal. And honestly, they do have like a pitcher and a utility player in Raylan Van Zee from Robinson, Texas, at Robinson High School. Buzz fast pitch, like in terms of the club team. So that's definitely gonna replace, I would say, Casey West for sure. And as Brooklyn Wooden, like a catcher slash outfielder from Frisco, Texas, Frisco, Lone Star High School, Hot Shots 18 under is like club level. So I don't really envision adding anybody in the pitching staff unless there's somebody in that room leaves, because none of those pitchers, by the way, are seniors. In fact, when you look at it, only like Lexi Warnicki's a junior. It's good to have 5 they're gonna have like at least. It's good to have multiple options in the bullpen, and hopefully, Carrington Dawson does get back next year. I just don't know when, or get back to practicing, because you just don't know when with ACLs. You just don't. And all this. Because the rest of the pitchers, like Sadie Ross, sophomore. Payne Tanner, sophomore. Camry Krager, sophomore. So I do think this experience from making an NCAA tournament and even winning 2 games is going to help going into next year. Obviously, they got to replace some, and I'm just going to say this up front. Glenn Moore is not going to go anywhere until he retires. Let's just be honest. He's done a lot for the program. He has. He's made the NCAA tournament last 3 out of 4 years. Even last 4 out of 5, including a near Women's College World Series in 2024. Remember that, folks. And some people just cannot eat crow anyway. I mean, look. Right after that Texas State game, I literally said Baylor softball needed to win 1 more game in the last 6. This is besides Big 12 tournament and not having bid stealers. And someone just said, no way Baylor softball is making that. And even with that record, just being barely above 500 is not going to be enough. It's like, person, it's all about RPI and strength of schedule at the very end of the day here. And look, and it did also help that Missouri did lose to Auburn in the first game in the SEC tournament and then eliminated Missouri. And obviously Kentucky was not going to make the NCAAs unless they won so many 3 games in a row and then lose to be above 500. Even then, the RPI had to be good enough. And Auburn, they were nearly in the NCAA tournament, but they ended up with a losing record. And yeah, the RPI is really good, but it's about winning record. You can't make the NCAA tournament with a losing record unless you win your conference tournament. So, yeah, and not a lot of bid stealers happen in general. I mean, the Southland Conference had a bid stealer, like McNeese State, and that Baylor beat them this year. And obviously the Sun Belt got a 3-bid league this year. And by the time like all the other results happen around like Baylor, those teams that lost either right away in the conference tournament or behind us, it helped Baylor some. Even like, sure, Kansas won the first game, but they lost the second game. And Kansas would have got in anyway with that UCF win. Let's just be real. And that really did help to have not a lot of bid stealers in general. And after I called a person out, let's just say the person was very mean towards me. And yet, like, I believed what the guy from Softball America said. It kind of validated what I thought in order to make NCAAs after the Texas State win. And the person did say, I will eat my crow sandwiches if I'm wrong. And they questioned me about that. And I literally showed the RPI and what's going on, and look at these teams in 500 worker. And I literally monitored some of those results too around Baylor at the time. And all this. Yet they still didn't want to believe. And the person never ate crow when Baylor was announced to make the NCAA tournament. So I had to call the person out. And the person was really rude. And that person just can't handle the truth that Baylor softball got in. And I also know that person is a Glenn Moore hater anyway. So you get the point. Maybe we'll see about if there's going to be any staff changes. Maybe there will be. I know the hitting has got to get better. And like pitching, like win and loss record for your top two, hopefully that gets better, but it's not really entirely on them for those games. Granted, they do need to win more ranked games in general and protect home field better, I know. And we'll have to wait and see about the schedule going into next year, and you never know with the Big 12 what they're going to do. I mean, at home they were 15-12, on the road 8-13, 7-3 neutral sites. Maybe it could be a little bit better on the road / away. It just depends on the opponent, though. And obviously, at home, you got to be a little bit better, but it depends on the opponent. So, they did make a step up in the right direction here. And Glenn Moore's not going to go anywhere unless he wants to retire. Just be real. And I know it's going to come at some point. He said to John Morris on a second podcast one time, he's thinking about it. It's just every time he thought about it, he still has an itch for the game. So we'll have to wait and see, and I'll definitely monitor if there's any transfer portal additions. Possibly, this is besides subtractions, and I know that there are some freshmen possibly on this team that were redshirting, so it's a lot of potential experience coming back. So maybe they'll take that next step forward in the Big 12 next year. Maybe they will. And I did call my shot a year ago when Baylor got they got Payne Tanner and Samai Jones as transfers. This came right after Cambridge Krager. I called my shot back then. Baylor softball's going to make the NCAA tournament, unlike last year, and they did. They proved it. And I wasn't sure anyway if they would have got past the regional round back then, or even the beginning of the year. And now it validated what I thought. It just depends on whether we're being sent, to be honest. But I'm glad they won 2 games, especially against Wisconsin. That's a Wisconsin team that did beat with Oregon in the Big Ten tournament. So that's a quality win. And obviously they beat Widener, and they should have beat Widener. They had that mindset after that Wisconsin loss the first time. We're not going to lose. We're not going to lose today. And I'm glad. So anyways, if you like this content, hit the like, subscribe, and see you guys later on the Reddit. 800 schools ultimate goals, 1,000 more smart money. This course like video, comfort really helps YouTube background. Some more people see it. Sharing the video does help as well. Some more people can watch it. And for watching, and not subscribe, hit subscribe button for notification bells. And I know this is almost 30 minutes long, but I just want to go everything into particulars here, especially calling out that person and saying that person was rude when I called him out. That person just didn't like Glenn Moore, and he thought Glenn Moore should be fired. It's like, There are bigger issues to Baylor athletics right now than Baylor softball. Let's just be real. Football is one of them. Baseball is another. Obviously, I know equestrian's not been doing anything since 2019, and they even not made the tournament for back-to-back years. We have to wait and see. Yeah, that's definitely not on the top three on my list. Women's basketball just needs to do more in the NCAA tournament. It's not the amount of wins or what they're doing in conference, because the conference is tough, a little bit more parity now in women's basketball. So I'm just making a big point. There are bigger problems to Baylor athletics than Baylor softball right now, and hopefully the NIL money does get better for the sport. And they do lose. I'm going to just go ahead and mention a few more notes here that I have, like in terms of softball seniors. Like Texas Tech is going to lose 7 seniors, including one of the best pitchers they ever had, that they bought with $1 million. Iowa State with 8 seniors, Oklahoma State with 8 seniors, UCF with 6, Arizona with 6, Arizona State with 8, BYU with 8, Kansas with 7, Utah with 6, Houston with 5. So that's just quick going over that information right there. So I apologize. It's almost 32 minutes long now. Still, you guys get the point. It was up and down, but they did enough to make the NCAA tournament, whether you believe that or not. It's up to the committee at the very end of the day. Strength of schedule, winning record, quality wins, and RPI. The strength of schedule was not going to be an issue for Baylor. It's more like the RPI, and it was definitely good enough. It was near in the top 40, and granted, you got to take one of those teams out in the top 40 in RPI because of losing record. That would be Auburn.